In this video, we'll be covering PowerPivot in SharePoint 2013. My name is Tavis Lovell, and I'm a Senior SharePoint BI Consultant with Rackspace. If you need to reach out to me, you can find me at tavis.lovell@rackspace.com, on my blog at www.tavislovell.com, or on Twitter at tavislovell. In this video, we're going to talk about what PowerPivot is used for. We'll step through the prerequisites you'll need in order to complete this tutorial. And finally, we'll walk through creating our own PowerPivot workbook and uploading it to SharePoint. PowerPivot consists of two components. There's the Excel 2013 add-in that allows you to create and edit PowerPivot workbooks. And then there's a SharePoint component that allows for the rendering of PowerPivot workbooks inside of your web browser. With PowerPivot, you're able to connect to multiple tables within a system, or even multiple tables and multiple systems, and then create relationships between any objects that share common keys. This allows you to work with your entire data set as if it were one, even if the data actually resides in completely different locations. PowerPivot is also capable of handling large amounts of data, up to hundreds of millions of rows, while still maintaining performance. If you need to create custom calculations against your data, PowerPivot has you covered with the ability to write data analysis expressions, also known as DAX. One final point about PowerPivot, you will need to have both the SharePoint and SQL Server Enterprise licenses in order to take advantage of these features in your SharePoint environment. In order to successfully complete this tutorial, you'll need to have the following prerequisites: a SharePoint 2013 environment with Excel services and PowerPivot already configured. This includes setting up and associating an unattended service account. Configurations will not be covered in this video, however, it is covered in depth in the BI chapter of the Rocks publication titled Professional SharePoint 2013 Administration. Secondly, you'll need to have the AdventureWorks DW 2012 sample database installed and the appropriate permissions needed to read data and create database views inside of this database. The AdventureWorks sample database can be downloaded for free at the link shown in the slide. Last but not least, you'll need to have Office 2013 installed in order to create your PowerPivot workbook. So before we get started with the tutorial, let's take a look at what our goal is. Here I've created a pretty simple PowerPivot workbook that looks at internet sales profit by country, and we're able to filter on a couple of different areas over here, such as category name, and then a few different customer demographics. Now, what really sets this workbook apart from a regular Excel services document is the way we're pulling in the data. We didn't actually write any code in order to pull this data in, and we're connected to multiple tables, and we've been able to group this data logically, so it's a lot easier to browse for a user. So we have all of our demographic information under customer, all of our geographic information under geography, and so on. So let's take a look at what's involved in creating this workbook. Alright, we'll start by opening up Excel 2013, and we're just going to create a blank workbook here. Now, if you don't have a PowerPivot tab up at the top, we'll need to enable that plugin for Excel. To do that, click on File, then Options, and then click on Add-ins. Down in the Manage drop-down, we want to select COM add-ins, and then click Go. And you'll want to ensure that Microsoft Office PowerPivot for Excel 2013 is selected, and then click OK. Now you should have your PowerPivot tab up here at the top. Let's go ahead and click on that, and then click on Manage. Now this will open up our PowerPivot window where we can import data and manipulate data. Since we'll be importing from our AdventureWorks DW 2012 database, we'll select from Databases, and then from SQL Server. And we'll need to type in our SQL Server name. In my case, it's just SQL. And we'll also need to select our database, which is AdventureWorks DW 2012. Then go ahead and click Next. We're going to leave the default option of Select from a list of tables. And then we just need to select our tables. For our example, we'll need the DIM customer table, the DIM geography table, DIM product category, dim product subcategory, and fact internet sales. Now these tables contain a lot of columns, most of which we don't really need, so we're going to apply some filters to them. We'll start by just clicking on the dim customer table here and then clicking preview and filter. As you can see, there are quite a few columns in here. We're going to deselect all of them, and then I'm going to move this over just a little bit so we can see the full column name. And we're going to select customer key and geography key. Now these keys are important because we'll relate other tables to each other via these keys. And then we're going to select some customer demographic information, which will be marital status, gender, yearly income, and English education. Then click OK. And you'll see once that filter has been applied, you'll get the Applied Filters link. If you click on that, you can see exactly what filters you have applied to the table. All right, I'm going to go ahead and do this for a few of the other tables. Here's a quick list of each of the tables and which columns we'll need for each of these tables. So if you're following along, you can pause this video, take a look at this, and apply those filters. Through the magic of video editing, you can see that I have now applied filters to all of the tables. One quick note for dim product. I know on the Excel sheet it listed product ID. The key was actually product key. Sorry about that. Once we have our filter selected, we want to go ahead and hit finish. And PowerPivot is going to import all the data for the tables we selected. We can then click close, and we'll see a tab for each of the tables that we've imported down at the bottom. One of the first things we want to do here is rename these tables to something a little more friendly. So for dim customer, we're going to right click on that tab, click rename, and we're just going to take the dim part off of that name and then hit the enter key. And we'll go ahead and do that for all of these tables in here. And then for the fact internet sales table, we'll go ahead and take the fact part off as well. All right, let's take a look at how we can rename some of these columns in here. So let's click back on our customer table. And then we might want to rename English education to be just education. We can do that by right-clicking on it and then selecting rename column. And we'll just highlight the English part, delete it, and then hit enter. And that column has been renamed. Additionally, we might want to hide some of the columns that we actually import. Now we needed to import these keys so we could create relationships between the tables, but it's not something that the user is necessarily going to want to see. So we can hide these from the user by right-clicking on them and then selecting Hide from Client Tools. And we'll do that for both the customer key and the geography key in here. Right. Let's create a quick calculated column in here using a quick DAX expression. Let's say we want to create a column called profit on the internet sales table that takes the total product cost and subtracts it from the sales amount. We can do that pretty easily by clicking on this empty cell underneath add columns and then going up to our formula bar and typing an equal sign, selecting the sales amount by clicking on it, type a minus sign, and then select the total product cost, and then just hit enter. And it automatically creates our calculated column here, and we can also go ahead and rename this to something more friendly like profit. Alright, before we get into actually creating the report, I did want to talk a little bit about how these tables are related to each other. So if we click on this diagram view here at the upper right, we can see that for each of the tables, relationships have really already been created between all of the tables. And this is because the keys in the database we were using were named the same. So the customer key and the customer table automatically matches up to the customer key in the internet sales table. Now, if we wanted to edit this, we could simply double click on it and adjust the tables and columns that are selected here. Or if you wanted to create a new relationship between keys that weren't necessarily named the same, so they didn't get automatically matched up, we could just do a drag and drop in between tables. All right, now that we've covered that real quick, let's go ahead and look at the chart that we want to create. So if we click on Pivot Table, and then we scroll down to Pivot Chart, we'll just go ahead and put this into our existing worksheet. Whoa, I put it way over there, so I'll drag it back over here. And we want to look at profit, so I'll select that from our internet sales table. And we were looking at profit by country, so I'll go to our geography table over here and select English country region name. There we go. Now let's go ahead and add a few slicers to this report. So we'll want to click on the chart, click on Insert at the top, and then go over to Slicers and click on that. And we'll want to click on the All tab so we see everything. Now notice how Customer isn't showing the keys like the other tables are, so those are nice and hidden, and we've taken off English off of Education, so that's reflected here. Let's select a couple of customer demographics to show. So we'll go for gender, education, and marital status. And then we'll also go ahead and select the product category and allow them to filter on that. Once you've got those selected, go ahead and click OK. And we'll do just a very quick bit of formatting here. All right, so that's the basic functionality of our report. We're now able to filter on these, and those should be reflected in our pivot chart over there. And those relationships that we saw in the diagram are what enables us to interact with all of these tables as if they're just one data model. So we've in effect written a report that spans multiple tables and not even had to write a single drop of SQL, which is pretty exciting. The only thing that's really left to do is go ahead and save this workbook. So we'll click on File, if you didn't see that, File, and Save As. We'll save it to the desktop here, and just book 1 is fine. And there we go. And then we'll simply upload it to SharePoint. So I've got my workbook, or I'm sorry, my PowerPivot library that I've created in SharePoint already open here. So all I need to do to upload it is to click on the File tab and then Upload Document. Click on Browse and browse to that document. And it should be uploaded. Now these thumbnails take a minute to generate here, so don't be worried if those don't immediately show up. I usually got to give it about 30 seconds or so, and then you'll see a thumbnail of the actual chart that you've created. Let's go ahead and open up the workbook, and we'll see that our chart and filters are here, and they are indeed working. So that pretty much wraps it up for our PowerPivot tutorial. Once again, my name is Tavis Lovell, and thanks for watching.